Happy Thursday, loves! If this is your first time checking out my Facebook Live video, thank you for checking it out. My name is Dani LeBerry. I'm a licensed psychotherapist, a virtual licensed psychotherapist, and a happiness transformation coach. I typically work with people who are feeling unhappy, unfulfilled, overwhelmed, anxious, maybe a little depressed. And in case you did not know, September is Suicide Prevention Month. So 2 weeks ago, I did a Facebook Live on suicide prevention among teens. Last week, I did, actually, on both of these, last week and the week before, those Facebook Lives, Jessica West joined me, and she was able to also share her personal experiences as well, dealing with suicide from loved ones and experiencing that loss. So 2 weeks ago, we did suicide prevention among teens, and then last week, we did suicide prevention among adults. Tonight, we're going to be discussing suicide prevention among veterans. And joining me tonight is Sean Becker, and I'm just waiting for him to join me. And once he is on, we will get started. There we go. Awesome. Great. Hi, Sean.
Hi.
Thank you so much for joining me. So, for those who are watching, Sean Becker, he's the president and CEO of WGY6 Crisis Squad, which is a group dedicated to bringing an end to the veteran suicide pandemic that is affecting the community. So, thank you so much for joining me, Sean. And something that Sean and I talked about as we were preparing this Facebook Live is to talk about signs that a vet may be suicidal. Now, what's interesting is that some signs are very visible and some signs are not so visible. So, Sean, if you can go ahead and talk to us a little bit about that.
So, basing off what I've seen for, depression and suicidal behavior over the last 10 years in the veteran community, there are a lot of similarities, as we had previously talked about, where you're going to see the withdrawn nature, you're going to see increased aggression or increased repression, or what I like to call the mask of fake happiness. If you see personality changes, it is a huge issue that is a red flag. And it's really something that becomes all too common. And other things you have to worry about when you start seeing this in the veteran community are signs that you would typically see in suicidal civilians, giving prized possessions away, cutting off from common behavior, not enjoying previous hobbies, really big flags and symptoms. But there are others that you won't normally see, like being more active, like being more sociable. Anything that's outside of the normal realms of a personality for somebody, it should be a massive indicator of something going on with that veteran.
Absolutely. And some of the things that I think that you also mentioned is if someone is, for example, look at their schedule and notice if there's any big differences. So, for instance, if they're always late, if they're
Yes.
showing up and they're disheveled, something like that.
Yes. So vets are creatures of habit. I myself, if I'm ever on time, worry about me. I'm usually one of those people that's, 15 minutes prior to 15 minutes prior, because that's something that's instilled in us. So showing up late is massively out of character for a lot of the vets that are, that enjoyed their time in. But if they used to take pride in like their beard for a male veteran and they decide to suddenly shave it off, or just they look unkempt, they stop doing basic ritual, is what we're taught, which is another huge red flag, because we are taught to be OCD. We are all taught to do things the same exact way. You wake up, you shave, you shower, you work out. We become OCD creatures of habit. And once those habits start breaking down, you'll actually start seeing a large depression gap starting to form, which is why one of the big things that we push is set a schedule and live by it, because it's structure. And that's what causes a lot of destruction in the veteran community, is we miss that structure. We miss that very foundation. And
What are some things that you would suggest if someone is starting to present those signs? Say that I know someone and I notice these things that you're bringing up. They're starting to bring up those signs. What are some ways that you think that, or some tips that you have on people opening up that conversation?
um, a big thing is it depends on how close you are with this veteran. If you talk with this person every day, you've been friends for a long time, you start noticing these patterns, start trying to push them back towards that position. You know, start bringing them out more if they were a social creature. If they're spending more time at home, just keep talking with them, reach out. You know, they may tell you, hey, I'm fine. It's fine. But reaching out is better than nothing. You really have to start putting in those efforts because once that spiral starts, unless you do what you or I do every day, it's really hard to pull them out of that spiral. And it's just a compounding thing where, you know, if people aren't reaching out when these patterns of behavior start changing, oh, they don't even care that I'm not showing up anymore. Do they really need me around? And that's what spirals it into the suicidal side of the house rather than just depression. Because am I worth it becomes a statement rather than just a thought.
Mm-hmm. Tell me
Um,
a little bit, Sean, about your program and how it is as a resource. Because usually I like to, provide people, well, what should they do once they realize these things? Okay, now I've realized that someone that's close to me who's a vet is presenting these things. What exactly does your program offer or do, and how can people contact you if they're interested?
so we have a website, and I'll be more than happy to drop the link in this for them to be able to reach out to us because a lot of times vets reaching out to other vets is going to open a lot more doors than you reaching out would to the same person. So what we do is
Mm-hmm.
if a vet comes to us and says, hey, I need to talk, we have operators on standby that are ready to start talking. You know, we have support groups, much like AA, NA, that are broken down into different walks of life. You know, male combat vets, MST survivors, drug addiction, alcoholism. We also have a general chat if you just want somewhere to go and feel normal. Because a lot of the issues stem from the fact we just feel like we don't fit. We're a corner piece of the puzzle that's been put in the middle. You know, we were supposed to be part of a structure, and that structure is gone, which is what we try and rebuild in these chats. And what we do, if you do end up in one of our chats for a support group, it's right on Facebook, so it's something that everybody carries in their pocket, and there's always somebody there. So you always have somebody to go, hey, this is what I'm dealing with. We have people that have been in these chats, that have been in these situations, and we give them different tools. And what's great about it is, as it built, we gave them tools, but they also have the tools of their own. So when the new people come in, and they hear the stories, they're like, hey, this is what worked for me. These are some resources that really helped me. And what that does is it builds a giant safety net for everybody coming in to be caught and be able to be built up just a little bit more. And as that builds, the next generation is going to help the next generation and so forth and so on, much like the NA and AA prospect with a sponsor. Um, but there's no direct disconnect because you're not dealing with one person, you're dealing with many. So it's not just one idealism that's being constantly pushed. Now, on the other side of the house, if you come to us and go, hey, my friend is suicidal, and give us proof of this person's in trouble, a screenshot of a post saying, I'm going to end it, picture of them with a gun. You know, if you have valid things like that that we can use, the more information you can provide us, the faster we are going to be at locating this person, especially if they're going to be non responsive to phone calls or social media. We will get help there, whether it's local boots on ground or, unfortunately, as a last resort, law enforcement sometimes does have to intervene to be able to put something in mental health care. And unfortunately, it happens in the civilian society as well. And that's something we really try and avoid desperately, why it's a last resort option. However, if you're sitting there posting things like, I have a gun to my head, I'm going to end this, you really have tied our hands and we really don't have the options at that point. We will still try and reach out. We will still try and establish communications and talk it down from that point. You know, unfortunately, it is a pandemic and it's really sad that it's not looked at in the medical field as a pandemic because even if we take it at the statistical rates of 22 a day, which is a massive misnomer. So that 22 a day was taken from a small pool that was done by the VA of veterans that were part of the VA, part of mental health programs that reached out when suicidal and continued and followed through with the act. It doesn't show any of the vets that weren't. reaching out that weren't in care. It doesn't show active duty near as much. The active duty numbers are pretty much triple what you'd see there. And that's just, again, comes back to a whole new issue that I can spend hours ranting on about failure in leadership. But um, we will get them help. And the reason we're different from a lot of the other groups and a lot of other resources out there is some groups will just, once that law enforcement is involved, they're done. Once they know that person has gotten help, all right, hands clear, we're off. We reach back. When we see you're back on social media or your friends tell us you're back out there, we reach out to you. Because at that point, you're usually in a much more stable place mentally. You're on a medication that balances you out a bit. And we offer the chats to you. You know, we still do reach outs. And if you don't want the chats, I'll still reach out to you. Or one of my team members will reach out to you every couple days, every couple weeks, and space it out further and further until you either tell me to A, go away, you're annoying, or B, we see you're in a better place. It's just to show somebody is there. And it's not because I want to show somebody is there, it's because I've been there. I've been that vet sitting in a vehicle, completely drunk off his mind with a shotgun, ready to end everything. And I do not want anyone to ever feel like that. Because that is a very dark and lonely place.
Thanks for sharing that, Sean, so much. And for anyone who is watching, whether you are a veteran or you know someone who is, please, I always invite people to share this video. It's interesting how, despite how advanced we are in technology, it seems as though there's still a lack of connection and resources for people. So if something came up for you in watching this, Sean, how is the best way if someone wanted to contact you that they can get a hold of you?
So again, we have the WGY6 page on Facebook. Go ahead. There's a message button right there. If you message that, it sets off about 24 different phones for all of my operators. Somebody will answer. And I don't care if it's 7 in the morning, 3 in the morning, 5 in the afternoon. We are always there. I know my phone is constantly set to loud. I will answer you unless I'm obviously driving or things like that, but somebody will be there to be able to speak with you.
Great. Thank you. And of course, as always, like I always say in my videos, if anything has come up for you, you have any questions, you can always feel free to contact me. Again, my name is Dani, and my email is Dani, D-A-N-I, at DaniLaberry.com. Thank you all so much for checking out this video. And again, share it. Sean, thank you so much for joining me on this. I think that this is an important topic to talk about, especially in these times where people have the tendency to kind of just brush off, I'm fine, I'm okay. And the rates have been going up. So thank you again, Sean, for joining
Yep.
me. And thank you all so much for watching. Take care of yourselves and have a great night. Thanks, Sean.
Yep.